Who was Neil Armstrong? From the Who Was books, and this is the Who HQ book. Let's get started on today's episode of Han Chen Chen. Okay, so who was Neil Armstrong? Well, he was one of the best people and one of the most admired people ever in the entire world. And I guess I call him that. I don't know what other people call him. I call him that because mainly he was the first man on the moon, and he was the one who was able to claim the space race for the U.S. He was also the one who basically, was team leader for most of his missions, and he was a test pilot. And during the Korean War, he basically won a lot of medals because of all the bravery he's shown, and even dropping parachute into friendly territory after his plane went through a trip in the unfriendly territory. And another thing, his launch of the actual astronaut launch was one of the, I guess, greatest accomplishments of man, as when he was launched from that spacecraft into the Eagle to the moon, he created history, even though he almost died back then. Oh well. Let's continue on with his early lives first. He was born on August 5th of 1930 and was the first and oldest son. Why did I keep oldest daughter? Anyway, oldest son and the first son of the two Armstrongs, Stephen Armstrong and Viola Armstrong. They said that Neil was a very easy kid to actually raise and tame because mainly of his being likeness of his mother, he's like his mother. But the only thing that was a bit different was his shyness and his, something as much of unfriendly way. He's not like unfriendly, like, hey, you, I'm a bully. Not like the bully way. He just didn't make friends that well. He did make friends eventually, but I guess he just didn't like socializing that much. And when his brothers were born, they described him as being almost an opposite version of them. Okay, and then eventually when he finished high school with great ace marks, like A marks, he was able to go to college, but he didn't have the money for college, at least university. So then the army decided to give this deal to Armstrong. Hey, you can go to college and we'll pay the tuition fee, but in return you will give us military service. And after 2 years of going to university, Neil Armstrong was sent to the army and he did his military service. And then he came back after all of that shenanigans. He finished his college at 22 years old, and then the Korean War came in during 1950, where he fought with the UN for South Korea, and then eventually did literally nothing except just to move South Korean territory a bit into North Korean territory. And that's not much, to be honest. It was like, hey, North Korea almost won, oh, South Korea almost won, oh, boom, 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 boom. Okay, we're back at the middle. Anyone want a truce? That's settled then. During those university years, he met this woman named Janet Chiron, and in 1955, and then he pretty much married with her. She was a freshman, by the way. Well, he just graduated. After his graduation, they married, and they had 3 kids together. However, his first son Mark was born, and then his daughter, whom Neil Armstrong loved the most, named Karen, was a very healthy baby. And then at the 2 years old, she stumbled and hit her head onto the stone pavement. It didn't do much damage, but then after that, she started tripping and then going to places without knowing, sinking things that weren't really her thoughts. And then when she was sent to the doctor, he confirmed that she had a brain tumor in her brain, a cancer tumor in her brain. She was able to survive past Christmas, but during her third year, she died. And that was also when, like a few years later, that was also when Neil Armstrong started applying to be an astronaut for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, which was basically NASA. And you might really know what NASA is. I mean, if you've ever been to NASA space camp. Yeah, I've never been to a space camp. In 1966, he had his first flight at the start of space on Gemini 8, and that must have been exciting because he was test piloting a new aircraft that could go all the way to space. And he literally just went up to an altitude that was mainly called the start of space. And in 1969, of July 16th, after a very, very long training, he and 2 other astronauts went into the Apollo 11 craft and was sent to space. And the third astronaut was to orbit the Earth, while Buzz, the second astronaut, and Neil Armstrong were sent to walk on the moon and moonwalk. Michael Jackson's moonwalk. Da 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 da. Yeah, okay, I do not know how to do the moonwalk. Sorry about that. I couldn't really show you guys with that. But anyways, during that historical day, he was able to get onto the moon. Since he was the leader, he was given the privilege of stepping on the moon. And those footprints are still on there because there's, as they said in like multiple books, there's no wind on the moon. So, there's no erosion. And the footprints are still there. With dust, a bit of dust covered on them, that is. However, in 1970, a year after that, he quit the NASA program, and then a year after that, in 1971, he became a professor, a university professor. And then in 1994, Neil and Jan divorced, and then, well, during that same year, he remarried. In 2012, he died on August 25th, and at the age of 82 years old. He has had many accomplishments in his life that might have been so meaningful that mankind has progressed into a future and with more possibilities than we had in any other time. Eventually, our future will probably have more possibilities than any other time before, including now. But right now, we have more opportunities to us than in the past. Neil Armstrong technically gave us a gateway to space. But basically in space, we can do almost anything. Make our wildest dreams come true. That's one thing that this is going to be helpful in. And that is mainly the end of this episode. If you guys actually did enjoy this episode, and if you guys learned something new about Neil Armstrong's life here, including that he was one of the best astronauts, that in my opinion, one of the best astronauts of the NASA program, and was one of the first people to actually walk on the moon, then please comment down below what you want to know more about Neil Armstrong, and then, well, share each other facts. Well, that is how we'll end this. Shout out, peace. Side note, my old goal was to be an astronaut. Now I'm too scared of heights, so no, that is cancelled. See you.